Welcome into today's episode, and man, what a blessing you guys have. I am currently not here. I am in Georgia at a Life Teen summer camp leading worship for the week, so this was all pre-recorded. So this is like, time travel. I'm just like Loki. So, I hope that you guys enjoyed it. We put a lot of work into it before I left so that we could do this, and a certain someone is here with me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you do, hit that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you are listening to the podcast. Enjoy.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you please repeat it?
Siri, leave me alone, please. I'm trying to record an intro to the podcast.
I didn't find intro on Apple Podcasts.
All right. Enjoy today's show. What's up? And welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll, and we have a grand return after taking 3-4 months off for the summer. Jonathan Lene Bearded Blevins has returned.
Dun,
John,
dun, dun,
welcome back.
Dun, 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 dun. Isn't that a return song?
Not Return of the King, the Return of the Jedi. There you go.
Oh, yeah. Dude, Taylor, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. We're back. We touched base last week, and you were like, "Yeah, I think I can come back." So we know for at least the next couple of months you'll be here.
Yeah, we scheduled some things. I missed you.
I missed you too. I really did. I think the theme of this first little segment here is that absence makes the heart grow fonder. Because I missed you. Like, first couple of weeks, it was like, okay, good. I needed a break from that guy.
Wow.
And then the longer it went through the summer, I was like, I started doing some things where I started missing you, and I started feeling some things, and we'll get into that. But remind the people why you decided to break up with me for a little while.
So, okay, yeah, it was a break. And most people, immature people take breaks to break up with people. Mature people take breaks to just take a break, and then they come back, I had a lot going on this summer, and I wanted to make sure that I focused on the things I need to focus on to make sure that I'm setting myself and my family up for the best possible year of 2021, 2022. So I needed a little more time, a little less things in the schedule. I did a lot of Super Squares hockey stuff, which was fun. The Lightning won the Stanley Cup since last you and I talked. Does anyone care about that?
I mean, here's the thing, John. Here's the thing. It was not a pendulum, but like the weight thing, like the scales of justice.
Yeah.
I think it's called. Where it's like, I love the NFL and I love you, and I think Super Squares is pretty cool. Like, that's where all these things kind of line up for me,
Yep.
right? So like during football season, like I think maybe I missed 1 week just because I was busy or something.
Yeah.
But like I'm in, right? But like I tell you what, man. Like, my lack of care for hockey, apparently, I didn't know this. I think it's kind of sad. My lack of care for hockey just absolutely outweighed wanting to support you, because I just couldn't care any less about hockey and Super Squares hockey.
Listen, that's okay. We made the game a lot more fun, so we're ready for football to come up, which I'm so pumped for football. I had a lot of personal stuff over the summer that I was working on, some Jon Blevins projects and things I was trying to line up for next year. Had some great family time. It was, dude, it's been a crazy year. And a lot of people maybe have been lucky and stayed home and like were able to make that work and still spend a lot of time with family. I had to spend kind of a lot of time away from the family, still stuck in the basement, working from here and everything. So it was good to do some traveling. Went to Arizona. I took my boys camping, which is like a thing I didn't think I'd ever do, and now I'm a camper.
I was so surprised. We have been in agreement for so long about our hatred for camping, and then all of a sudden you leave me for 2 months, and I guess my influence wore off.
I know.
You're a camper now.
And now I'm a camper. Like, listen, dude, it's one more. It was my first time ever. It was amazing. One more camping experience. That's the opposite of that one, where I'm like smothered in bugs and sunburnt and sweaty. I will never go again. But it was a perfect night. And then just a ton of work stuff, man. We had Totus Tuus, vacation, Bible school, theology on tap this summer. Like, summer's supposed to be restful time for people in ministry, and it was not.
Right.
But in general, it was a very good few months.
I did realize this is my first time, like, this is Forte Catholic is a ministry, but it's different than like all the ministry that I've been doing beforehand, like parish-based ministry, where, working with students, they take off most of the summer, so you take off most of the summer, right?
Yeah.
Where this summer, like, podcasts don't take breaks, like, I mean, they do, but it's not because of the summer. It's just because people are like, yeah, we're going to take a break, or we're going to take a season here. I've been busier in the summer than I was during the school year. And like, not only have I been busier, but also my kids are home all the time. So let's just say Taylor's stress levels have been a little high, just a little high.
Okay.
So yeah, summer was not summer for the first time in a very long time. The summer was busy, but like, do you think that you taking the break, not just from me, you took a break from a bunch of other stuff too. Like, was it successful? Do you feel like you accomplished what you wanted to or not?
That's a great question. And I hate that I have to be so vague, but there's some fun things I'm working on that hopefully I'll be able to share soon with all of our amazing Forte Catholic listeners. I would say it was 75% successful. And that it's the rest of the 20. I'm horrible at math. The rest of the 25% is like still happening. So it's not like it was 75% successful and that's it. It could still be 100%. But one thing that was super helpful was and like you said, I cut everything. There were a couple of times people would like tweet at me and be like, "Hey, can you come on my podcast?" And I quote tweeted it and said no, hoping you would see it, so you didn't think I was like I saying no to you.
No, I definitely didn't.
Yeah, like I did not do one podcast all summer. I did not go on one thing with anyone all summer long. I was very proud of myself, and I also just like was showing, like proving that that it wasn't about the show; it was about my actual schedule. And so I'm excited about.
I have a follow up though,
please.
Because you tell me if I'm wrong, because I wasn't trying. Like I purposely like didn't stalk you because I didn't want to know the answer. If you were, actually, so like you did it for me and I didn't even see it because I was like purposely trying not to stalk you. But didn't you make a trip to Houston?
No, I did not.
You did not. Okay. Because you said, like, but even before we took our break, that you said it was like a possibility. And I saw that you did an event in Houston, but I guess it was digital, right?
Yes.
Now I'm calling.
Yep.
I would have been, I would have been real upset if you came an hour from me and didn't say it.
Dude, I would never do that. You know that. I would never do that to you. I would never do that to a couple other my friends in Houston. And then there's some people like that I don't know as well as I know you and my other friends who would be mad at me too if I didn't like say, "Hey, I'll be at this bar for 1 hour. Come hang out in Houston." Right. For some reason, like half the people I know on the internet are from Texas.
Yeah, because Texas is the best.
Texas is awesome.
Okay, so we got through the summer, and it was one of those things like we had Edmund fill in, and but like towards the end of the summer, I was like, man, I really want Jon to come back. Like I really started feeling like that it really was like about 2 months in, like so like maybe I was a little sad when he took the break, but then like the next 2 months, I was like, okay. Just kind of neutral about it. Not great, not terrible, just kind of neutral.
Yeah.
But then, like, over the last few weeks, I was like, man, I miss Jon. And so I reached out to you. I was like, can we kind of touch base? Because we planned to touch base around this time just to kind of see how we were going to move forward, whether you're going to stay on the show or not, and all these things. And so I reached out to you, but also I was like, I know that Jon has been on Family Feud a couple of times, and you've told me about this, and I'm a big fan of Family Feud, but just with how life was, and like I was always talking to you anyway, so I would get how your life is going, but I was like, you know what, I had kind of a lazy Saturday a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, I'm gonna watch Jon on Family Feud. There was one time, like before anybody got famous. For those that don't know, like your brother is Tyler Ninja Blevins, one of the most famous people alive because of his gaming. But even before any of that, when y'all were really young, you and the family, your two brothers, some random guy who I didn't know, and Jody, all went on Family Feud, like just as a normal family. And then, like I knew, like 2 years ago, y'all went on Celebrity Family Feud because your brother's a celebrity, and y'all all went back, which I thought was cool. But I didn't know for a long time that y'all were on it just as like the normal white family versus the normal black family. Like there's this joke all the time where it's like this boring white family and the really exciting black family. And that was you guys. You guys got to live that.
Except we were not boring. And I can confirm that Family Feud actually does try to pair white families versus black families on purpose, which is funny.
It is really funny. So I ended up watching a lot. Like I watched a bunch of Celebrity Family Feud. They released it on Hulu. So I watched a bunch of celebrities go. And then I was like, oh, I saw y'all's, and I was like, oh, I need to go back and watch the other ones first. So here's young Jon with young Jody. And like, you have hidden Jody from me, like our entire friendship.
Everyone says that.
I've never talked to Jody. I've never seen Jody. Now, there have been like 2 or 3 times where like we're recording and I hear her like in the other room. I've literally never seen her in like real time. I've never talked to her, nothing. So this was like my introduction to Jody. So it's you, Jody, your Kris, Tyler, and some random dude that I've never heard talked about ever.
So a good friend of mine named Cody, who actually was my brother-in-law, is no longer with my wife's sister. And so him and I are still friends. We don't talk as much as I'd like. But yeah, that's who he is. And he was hilarious, but he was so bad on the show. I don't think he got one right on all 3 or 4 episodes we were on.
I think because I didn't know him, like obviously with people you know, you're rooting for him, right? And it's like, I've never met your wife, I've never met your brothers, but we've talked enough about them that I feel like I kind of like tertiarily know them. I don't think that's a word, but it's like I kind of know who they are, right? But like it is really funny now. Like obviously, like just from my perspective, like I know you very well. I know Jody very little. Like I know Tyler just because Tyler's famous, and I think I've interacted with Kris a couple of times, like digitally, like on Twitter or like Pokemon Go, or I think there was one time that I was like on a voice chat with him at some point. So
Sure.
like I kind of know him. But it was really like a couple of like, so I live tweeted this thing that happened 8 years ago, and no one cared. Like,
I didn't even see it.
No one liked it except for your mom. I think I only did this for your mom. She got to go back and relive all of it. Good old Mama Blevins.
Did you tag me?
Yes, like multiple times, and you ignored me. I was really sad.
Bro, that must have been one of those crazy days because I love Twitter.
It was. Here's the thing, Jon. Here's the thing. I don't fault you at all. I thought that you would see it later, and you actually did like it, so you did see it. But you were at the Bucks championship basketball game.
Oh, that's why.
That same day. So I like as it was happening, like it was one of those things. I started tweeting about it, and then I saw that you were at the game. You know, so I was like, this was terrible timing, but I'm not going to stop watching. I figured you'd see it later, and I think you did, and I think you just saw me, and you're like, yep, like, and you didn't see the other like 40 tweets that I sent. So okay, pull it up. Can you pull it up? Because I think it'd be funny for you to, since you didn't see it. I didn't realize you didn't see it at all.
No, I have not read it all the way through. So what do I type in to find it?
I'm going to try to find it here, and I will send you like the top one, and hopefully we can go through it together. Because it was really fun for me to kind of go back and do it. Let's see if I can text this.
All right, I found it.
Okay.
Finally getting around to watching Bearded Blevins on Family Feud tonight. Get ready for live tweets. Oh, so that's the only one I liked, and I never read any of the rest.
Yeah, there's like 40 other tweets. So this was back in 2015 that in the old version, right?
Yeah.
It is like the one of the biggest takeaways for me. There's 2 big takeaways. One is like I fell in love with Jody, like as a friend. I fell in love with Jody because I finally see why you think she's so amazing. You've hidden her from me this entire time.
Okay, you say no. You say I've hidden her. You say she hides herself, dude.
My wife hides herself, and I am a good extrovert, and I rope her into things.
Oh, you should know though that I have never once seen your wife either.
Yes, you have.
Nope, not IRL. I've played Pokemon Go with her. I have heard her voice, but I have never ever seen her face live on your camera.
It's because you don't look at social media, as we just proved a moment ago.
That's probably true.
I tweeted about you 40 times, and you saw it once.
Dude, Jody's funny though. Seriously, like she'll like no joke, and we're just gonna roll with this. I'm just gonna be honest about who Jody is. She's one of the sweetest people on the planet. I love her to death. If I said Taylor and his wife are coming over to Chicago, let's have them over for dinner on Saturday night, she'd be like, I don't know them. We have 10 friends here that we never see. Why I don't know that. And then I'm like, what? Why are you so mean? Love my friends. And then you'd come over, and then she'd love you, and you guys would be besties. It's just who she is. She like has no interest in my internet life.
So here's the thing. I think in ranking of like stole the show, this is so funny to me because like everyone knows that Tyler, your brother, is the most famous person in the family. Like he's one of the most famous people in the world. So it's not like, it's not a surprise.
I'm insulted. I have 16,000 Twitter followers.
Right. But here's the thing. People who stole the show, Kris, your brother, being the team captain and proving that he deserved to be the team captain the entire time. Kris stole the show. He was the best.
Okay, come on now.
He was the best. Jody was second. Like, I'm coming in more closely connected to you. You were third, and then Tyler, and then that random dude that no one's ever heard of before. So it's so funny to me that, like, you would assume, like, when we get to, like the Celebrity Family Feud, like, obviously Tyler's like the most focused on. He's fourth in the first one.
That's awesome.
Like, literally one tweet was just, "Oh, Jody."
I'm reading these right now. Should I read them?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Starting with the 2015 version, I love that Kris is the team captain and Jon is last. Also, who's Cody? Aw, Jody. Vegabond's hairstyle is amazing. Oh, thanks, buddy. He's changed so much, but his laugh is still the same. Gotta love that laugh. Oh my gosh, I'm liking that.
You had the like 2015 youth minister like faux hawk. I loved it because like I had that hairstyle back when I had hair way before 2015.
Yeah,
but like it was definitely like the punk rocker,
the little faux hawk, right?
You've told us about, but we've never seen. I finally got to see it.
There you go. Oh, Jon said socks and the other team stole. I don't remember that.
Yeah, you got a lot of answers right. But like the first time where the other team, like it all came down to you. I forget what the thing was, but you answered socks, which is just it's a funny answer just for anything. I don't know what the question was, and the other team stole the points. So
gotcha. Steve Harvey being surprised ninja, saying he was a professional gamer and now he's changed the game and become the most famous one ever. Good for him. And wait for Steve to tell him to follow his dreams after the initial shock. Oh, that's lit.
Yeah, Steve was like, What do you mean? Like, it was kind of like he didn't say anything like actually bad that he actually had to regret, but he was like, video games, pro gamer. And he's like, I think he kind of realized it. He's like, you know what, man? Like, that's good for you. Follow your dreams, that sort of thing. Because like, I think Steve was like the initial kind of like older guy thing, like video games, that's stupid. But he's like, well, I followed a stupid dream and look where I am.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's a great way of describing it. I remember that vividly, that happening. That said, the lady said she doesn't want to be stuck in a pine cone.
I don't know what that was, but some lady on the other time, she was like, it was something like, what do you not want to be stuck with? And the big answers were like knives. And that lady said pine cone. I'm like, who would say that?
Dude, Cody had one of the best answers, and I'm forgetting what it was, but it was like something like, name something where, I don't even know, bro. He gave the most dumb answer, and Steve Harvey looked at him like what are you oh my gosh, I wish
That's why I love that show. Steve Harvey's reactions are the best.
Dang, the Blevins family was down 275-0 and came back and won. Greatest comeback in TV history. You decide yes.
Dude, Kris, like, y'all were down, and then like Kris scored like 190 points in the fast rounds. Like, unbelievable. It's the most points I've ever seen. That for people that have watched the show, there's 5 number 1 answers. He got 4 of the 5 number 1 answers.
And Tyler got the last one. They broke a record for the most points in Fast Money.
It was so cool.
That was really fun.
You skipped one where I was making fun of you.
Oh,
so it's like the thing in Family Feud where like when they're saying like, oh, the other family can steal if you get this wrong. You were the only person the entire time in the Blevins family that never put up the X. And I'm like, Jon, know how to play the game.
I think I did. I just think it's when they put me on camera I didn't. This is great.
That's all, on camera is all that matters. All right, keep going.
Beard Blevins looks like he's about to throw up when the game's on the line, but he came through. Love the celebration. Bro,
dude, yeah, man. It came down to you again, right?
Yeah.
And you legitimately looked like you were gonna throw up, and then you got the right answer, and I was so relieved for you,
dude. Because in my head, first of all, I was gonna say deer. I was gonna say the same thing he said, and he got it first. And as soon as he hit the buzzer, I was like, "We're going home," and it's all because of me. Like, I didn't hit the buzzer fast enough. I was about to throw up. So I'll never forget the feeling when I got that right.
That was awesome.
Invictus crushing it with 191 in Fast Money. Never seen a single person get that many points alone. Well done. Ninja came through with the cleanup. That was amazing. Now the real question is, did Beard Blevins and Jody get a double portion of the money since they're married?
I tweeted about this, and y'all actually talked about it in a later episode.
Did we?
Because I was like, yeah, like in one of the later ones. Because y'all were talking about like who gets the car, and you had to like argue like, oh, I think we should get the car because we just had our first kid like so long ago. Your kids are like grown now, But I always wondered because like there's 5 people, but if 2 are married, like did y'all get a double portion?
Yeah. So okay, fun fact. Jody was actually pregnant while we were filming the show. So when we said
y'all announced it on the show.
So if we did say like we have the kid, that's because it aired when we had the baby. So that's funny. I brought it up. So we won on a Friday. And we were going to miss our flight home if we lost because we were the last family to go on. And then, so we got to spend Saturday, Sunday, all expenses paid in Atlanta to come back on Monday and film, right? On Saturday night, I brought it up. I was like, it's gonna be a point of contention, but it shouldn't be because we're two of us. Like we both get our share.
Right.
It's as simple as. And so I brought it up just because I was like, let's just be clear about it. And we got into a pretty big fight. Like I forget who was mad. I don't know who was mad.
It was probably Cody.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably Cody. But like there were people
jerk.
that were like, "What? That doesn't seem fair." And it's like, why? We're both doing the work like of each other. And they ended up being like, "Yeah, it makes sense." I think it was Jess. I think it was Ty's wife who was like, I don't know if they're married at the time. Maybe
They weren't. He was dating someone else.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
But I think Jess might have been there though. No,
Okay,
I think
I misspoke.
They were
weren't
dating.
married, but they might have been. It might have been her. He didn't mention who it was, but I think.
they were dating. So she was with us on the trip, and she definitely was the one who was like, "Everyone, shut up! It definitely makes sense that they get it." And so
Yeah,
we did.
that's
Yeah,
good.
so we did
That's
get double, which was very nice.
Which is funny now, thinking about like the amount of money that Tyler has made. And I don't
Right.
know about your brother, but like you've done well. Everybody has done well. But I could imagine back then when nobody had any money, like we have a kid, we need this money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it was
seriously.
funny just like knowing what I know now and watching it back then. A lot of funny things like that.
Us winning that money, Jody and I both being able to get what we got from Family Feud is what allowed us to take the job in Illinois and buy a house.
That's so cool.
Otherwise, I would have had to turn down like a dream job.
That's awesome. Okay, we're running out of time. Let's skip to a couple of these. You answered, I forget what the question was, but just the fact that you answered with the word fart, and that was the correct answer, and y'all won. That's the most Jonathan Bearded Blevins moment of all time.
I like actually forgot that happened, and I'm so glad that you reminded me because that's amazing.
Oh man, the other thing, like everyone bounces on the show. No one bounces in real life, and apparently they go on Family Feud. Like all the families bounce the whole time, and I was very confused by that. But then we get to the one where like you guys got to face off against like Juju Smith-Schuster and his family. That was the celebrity one. Y'all didn't win that one, but y'all won all the previous ones. And like honestly, I think I just did this so that your mom could relive it and enjoy it.
That's amazing. You just made my entire day. I didn't even know that was coming up, and I love that.
Yeah, good. It was 3 weeks ago. So like I got to spend like a lot of time with you guys. It was about 2 hours, almost 2 hours, where I watched your family on Family Feud because y'all were on it 3 times when y'all were winning back in the day, and then the one time with Juju, and so it was that thing of like, okay, I got to experience this. I feel like I'm closer friend with John because it's like this big moment in his life, or these couple big moments in his life, and it was cool. And then I thought I was done like reminiscing with you and your family. And I started watching The Masked Singer with my kids.
Okay.
We love it. I love singing competitions. It gets better every season. I watched season 1 at the beginning of the pandemic. We started season 2, and season 2 just blows it out of the water. Like everybody on it, the talent level just went way up. Like even the people who got voted off on the first couple of episodes were like way better than some of the people who made it, in the previous season. So accidentally, I got to like be involved with your family again because we're watching it. My kids love it. They love the costumes and all this stuff. And I'm like, I think that singer is Tyler. Like there was like things about YouTube and gaming and all these things. And like his costume, like the hair of the ice cream cone that he was blue. And I'm like, he has blue hair. Like, so I started guessing who it was. So they get these celebrities who aren't typically known for singing, but they're famous for other things. And then they go on and they sing. It's kind of something new for them. And so we watch it. We enjoy it. He does great. And then he takes off the head and it's revealed for sure that it's your brother on The Masked Singer. And my son, we've talked about this before. My son has no idea that your brother's famous. He just goes, "Hey, I've played Pokemon Go with him." And he has no concept that like everybody on this show is famous. He just thinks that I'm watching like I was watching you, my friend, on TV do this cool thing on Family Feud. He was like, "Oh, look, there's Ninja. I caught a Pokemon with him once."
That is so funny, man. That is so funny. I sometimes forget that Ty was on that show, but I found out the day of. Like, he just couldn't tell anyone anything, and even us. And so we got a text that morning, and he's just like, from Jess, and Jess was like, "Make sure you watch The Masked Singer tonight at 8 p.m. And I was like, why? Well, I never watched that show. Why am I going to watch it tonight? And also, what if I had something going on? Like, I would have been so upset. I didn't schedule something around seeing my brother on this show. And so we watched it live and let our kids stay up, and they were like, "Uncle Tyler!" And my kids my kids still don't know who he is. They know that like Ninja is Uncle Tyler, but they don't know who Ninja is. They just know
Right.
like what his logo is and that he plays video games.
They think he's good at martial arts or something.
Yeah, they literally know nothing. They learned more at Totus Tuus about who he is from other first graders than they've ever learned from him or us, which I love. It's like protecting them a little bit, I think. Anyway, they stayed up and watched it, and they're like, "Why is Uncle Tyler on the show?" We're like, "Well, we were on Family Feud." It's hilarious.
Right. Well, all that to say is it was a good watching all of that was fun to just kind of get to know you and get to know your family a little bit more, even though you ignored me all summer. And I'm glad that you're back. Absence made the heart grow fonder. I'm glad you're here, Betty.
I'm glad to be back, and let's play video games again soon.
All right. Well, as glad as that's what you said at the beginning of the summer, and we never did it. But
You're never
also,
on anymore.
I'm on all the time.
Wow. He's like, I've been playing more.
I don't have any friends to talk to, so I just played single player games. So anyway, I'm trying to get out of this segment. So as much as I missed you, I'm going to kick you out for this next one for an interview with our mutual friend, Kris Frank, who is in town. So he came into the studio, this guy I barely know, and I'm like, hey, you want to come to the water closet at my house? And he's like, sure. So we talked about hope. Don't go anywhere. One of the really cool things about that God that we all love is that we can encounter him anywhere. We can do it at church. We can encounter him just at home, at a park, taking a walk. But there are some really, really special places where we can especially encounter God in a special way. Yes, of course, our churches, but also on these things called pilgrimages, where you take a trip to a holy place. It could be the Holy Land, like the place where Jesus and his disciples walked. It could be Rome, where the church was built and has its foundation, and like where, obviously where the Pope lives now, but also like you get to encounter all the saints and all the, there's so many different places where you can go on pilgrimage for a very special encounter with God. And Select International Tours has a bunch of different ways that you can do that with the world beginning to open up again. They're starting their pilgrimages again, and you can find out how you can encounter God on one of these tours by going to fortecatholic.com/tours. That's fortecatholic.com/tours to book your pilgrimage today. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Stroll, and I am joined today in studio by a guest that we didn't know this was happening 20 minutes ago.
Sure didn't.
So Kris is in town for, you're doing some training and speaking and stuff.
Yep.
And we met up and had lunch with everybody there. And then your
Here
host,
we are.
the other Kris, was like, hey, we've got like 30 minutes until you have to leave for your flight. And I'm like, I've got 18 minutes of show that we can do.
Let's fill the time.
So I'm glad that you're here.
Yeah.
So we met like 3 years ago. I've known you for longer just because you've, done speaking and stuff at conferences and those sort of things. But we met at a conference because you had just started working for Vegabond Missions, but
it kind of goes back and forth. I mean, we just let people say whatever they want, but Vegabond Missions is the official name. Yeah.
People say whatever they want about me, whether I want them to
Same
or
here.
not.
Same here.
So, like, that's when I first met you, because I had heard about Vegabond, because, like, I had done events and stuff with Bob Lesniewski, which was weird because, like, when I was the guy that started it. So when I was in junior high, he was, like, the rapper that came and like did the entertainment and then spoke about Jesus and stuff. When I was in like when I was in 6th grade.
Yeah.
And then I ended up like doing an event with him like 10 years later. So I knew him, and then I was excited that you had gotten started. And at that conference, we were like, man, we got to get you on the podcast. And here we are.
2 years
Here we
are. Finally.
I'm not a liar.
The stars aligned.
Exactly.
The stars aligned.
It just took a while.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that you even knew I existed, and you remembered me.
Of course. Yeah. We were, so yes, of course. I don't remember, all the details, because we were actually just talking about this. I had some health issues a while ago. When we met, we were at a seat conference, right?
Yeah.
That was like the pinnacle of like, oh no, I'm sick.
Oh,
so
really? I didn't know
physically, I was there. Mentally, I was 1,000 other places. But today, here mentally, here physically, I'm doing fine. So again, we're here. But of course I know you.
Yeah, that's good. And it's just one of those things that like I've been on both ends of this where it's like you meet somebody at a conference and I'm like, oh yeah, they know me now. And I've learned enough to know that they don't, right? But at the same time, like I've been on the other end where like people will meet me and I'm like, I know you, or like, yeah, I don't even know. Like one of my closest friends, we met like 2 years before I thought we met. I didn't even know,
Yeah.
So two big things. You worked for Vegabond Missions, which
Yes.
is we are in an elevator. It would be cool if I did like an effect of us going up an
Yeah,
elevator,
just
but I'm not going to
whoop.
because that's too much work.
Yeah.
But Vegabond Missions in a nutshell.
Yeah, so we do inner city Catholic youth ministry. So we go to neighborhoods or cities where there's not a lot of outreach being done. And we set up shop to do our best to build relationships with teens in the city so that they could build a relationship with Jesus Christ.
That's awesome.
Simple, right?
and-
Elevator pitch,
Yeah, it was perfect.
doors open,
It was,
right?
Yeah, we only went up one floor. It was
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
Those of you who have been listening to the show might have heard Liv say, I think she mentioned it,
Yeah.
that her son, Zach, who's 18 years old,
Yeah.
just graduated high school, just started up with you
Yeah.
guys. So you've been
Soon
trying
to be
win-
running the place.
Yeah, well,
soon to be running the show. Yeah, Zach's
I
incredible.
think eventually, I hope it's not soon.
Well,
'cause,
we'll see how he plays it, but
uh,
no, he's a great man, and we're excited to have him on the team.
he's still a kid to me, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But also like you were well known before you even started Vagabond. Like you spoke, and I didn't know you wrote a book, but you wrote a
Yeah,
you
yeah.
wrote a book all about hope. So elevator pitch. Now we're gonna go back down the floor
Yeah.
of who you are outside of your day job.
Yeah. So, I just had some time on my hands and had this message that I wanted to kind of convey, because I think if there's a forgotten virtue that maybe we need to kind of hold on to, specifically now coming out of COVID and everything else. I mean, we just need hope. This idea that, like, yes, things are bad and things are not okay, but it's going to be okay. And so how do we capture that? How do we hold on to that? And then how do we practically apply that in various situations? So in the book, I try to give a blueprint of not how to necessarily maneuver every situation, but how to hold on to hope in a lot of the ups and downs that life throws us.
Yeah. And those who've been listening to the show over the last, whatever it was, 16 months since last March, know that hope has been lacking on the show. It's one of those things where, like, and I was going to think about it, like, because when we were talking about what we're going to talk about on the way over here, you mentioned hope, and I was like, I think I do have this, like, deep underlying hope that, like, things are going to be better.
Right.
But everything that I actually feel and experience is like, everything's gone to crap, everything's falling, and I'm just gonna like go about my life. So I think like I was going to say like clear like a loser of like faith, hope, and love for me has been hope, but faith and love have been lacking too. But I think it's still lowest totem pole for me would be hope, and then faith, and then love's been fine, I guess.
Yeah. And I'm right there with you. Like all three are extremely difficult to live, right? But yeah, and hope is hard to articulate. Like love makes sense, right? And I think faith is like kind of drilled into us if we're around the church long enough, right? But what's hope, And so, yeah, I think it's not an uncommon experience for a lot of people to be saying exactly what you're saying or feeling what you're feeling, because, yeah, when life is disappointing, it's easy to think that God is disappointing. And so how do you just balance that or navigate that? Again, it's not as simple as just saying like, I'm going to be hopeful, because everything in you doesn't feel like that's really possible.
Yeah, and I think like the underlying versus how I feel like daily is like I am happy, right? Like I'm happy,
right.
like things are good. I just don't think or feel that things are going to get better for me,
Right.
and that's I would
Right.
imagine a
Right.
lack of hope, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, because like I think a lot of times like we kind of equate hope with wishful thinking, right? Like I hope the line at Chick-fil-A is not too long, or like I hope my wife gets me that Apple Watch I want.
Here's the thing: I'm going to pause you. I know you're trying to make a spiritual point,
No.
but for those of just life point, for those of you that don't know, y'all have Chick-fil-A where you live or no?
No, I live in Steubenville, Ohio. We don't have any good food, but
I worked at the Applebee's in Steubenville, Ohio, and I can
I don't change my statement.
yeah. No, I'm saying. I'm
Okay,
agreeing with you.
we have one restaurant I like. Bennigan's. It's great, good owner.
Yeah,
but
there you
besides that,
Yeah, you had to.
we have to go to
backtracking.
Pittsburgh to get to Chick-fil-A.
Right.
I'll say that.
So Chick-fil-A, they were, they grow on trees out here, and everybody talks about the line at Chick-fil-A and how fast it is. You know what's even faster? Order in the app and just drive up, and they bring it to you immediately.
Mhm.
That's how you do Chick-fil-A. Anyway, back to Jesus and hope.
No. That's really why we came here today.
Practical life
That's the
information.
message that we needed. That's going to help a lot of people. And then, let's, kind of just double down on that with hope, because, we need Chick-fil-A tips in our lives. At least I do. And so, but what was I saying?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
I'm
matter.
just kidding.
Okay, hope. Oh, I remember. Like we treat it like if it's just pie in the sky optimism, right? Like I just hope that things just kind of shake out the way that I want them to shake out. And the reality is like none of us get a hall pass in suffering, right? Like none of us are going to get through this life totally unscathed. And so how do we hold on to these promises and these truths that have been given to us through the church and through Christ when everything in the world seems to be kind of pushing back against that? And so again, hope is not necessarily about fixing all of our problems, but fixing our perspective.
Yeah. So I like that because the times that we feel the least amount of hope is when our situations are dire or not good, right?
Right.
So and oftentimes we can't change that situation. Like we just went through, the whole world went through a situation
Right.
where we couldn't do anything about it. And then just like personally, like as a man, as a husband, as a father,
Right.
as a ministry person, like whatever the
Yes.
labels we have that are very similar. I was like listing those off. I'm like, oh, we're talking about both of us.
Yeah.
But like anybody listening, it's like we have things that just suck in life.
Yes.
And hope. Maybe the things won't get better because we are promised suffering in
Yes.
this life. Maybe the situation isn't going to get better, but I like what you're saying because I hadn't really thought about that. We were like, hope isn't just the situation's better and then I'm happy. It's finding hope in the middle of that crap.
Yes. It's holding on to those promises. That hope, again, theological virtue given to us in our baptism. So it's not like any of us who are baptized are without hope. We have it. It's just a matter of how do we harness it and how do we really cultivate it. But it's really, again, about keeping our eyes kind of like fixed on heaven and those beatific promises that were given to us by Jesus. And again, it's not that like it's okay to suffer now because the next life is going to be fantastic. Like all of that is somewhat
Or really
true.
terrible. What are the two?
Yeah, or really terrible. It is kind of an extreme point, isn't it? But sometimes I think we think like, well, I'm suffering now, but I guess like in 60 years, hopefully after like a long life of suffering and sadness, then I'll be happy. Like God wants us to have a good life now and a good life later. But the reality is that we live in a broken world and we're broken people and there's consequences to that. But again, St. Peter says that we have to have a reason for our hope, but that reason is Jesus, right? And again, Paul, or probably Paul, if you're going to kind of argue who wrote Hebrews, but I think it's Paul, right? Like he says that it's an anchor, right? Like Jesus, the anchor for our hope. But like that anchor isn't like just thrown off the side of our lives, off the side of the boat and like just sinking on a rock somewhere, just kind of like holding us. Like we throw that up into heaven, you know, and then we hold on to those heavenly promises, hoping that as like the boat rocks, that we're actually still somewhat connected to, you know, all those good things.
Let me tell you
above
what my
us.
mind just
Yeah,
did.
show me. Because I've never used that analogy. And as I was saying, I was like, I don't know if this makes sense. It's a weird image.
100% makes sense.
It's a weird
except
image.
for my brain, because here's what my brain was doing. As you're talking about the anchor, like I've heard that, you know, like from like Cornerstone, that big song, my anchor holds within the veil.
Yeah.
And I was like, what
Makes
is
a
the
good
veil?
song.
Why are we throwing anchors in the synagogue? I was
Yeah.
very confused. But then I was thinking like, okay, boats. Like I grew up on the coast. Like the anchor holds it down. And I was even thinking like that even makes sense for how I've been saying that I've been experiencing a lack of hope, where like there is this deep underlying thing, the anchor, where I know that I'm safe, but I'm way up there on the boat where I'm being tossed around and all this stuff. And then you switch the anchor from going down to going up, and now I'm on the boat just going, woo!
Yeah, exactly. But isn't that how life feels sometimes?
That's
it's like,
exactly how I
this
feel.
is how I feel all the time. And so I'm just going to write a book about it. And that's what I did.
It's so funny
I'm
because
already
you thought it
dizzy.
was a bad analogy, but it's the best way I've been able to describe like my
so
lack
funny.
of hope.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, that's basically it. That's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm thinking, because I think like first half of our conversation has been you talked about like holding on to the truths, and I think more than half of the people listening to the show have heard about hope before. It's been preached to them. They've heard it before, but a lot of times, like even as I'm hearing it, even though I've heard a lot of the stuff that you're saying, it's like new perspective for my situation right now. But at the same time, like I even for me, who has heard a lot about hope, I've talked about hope, and I'm hearing it right now, I'm still finding it hard to be like, okay, but practical.
Practically.
Right? What does this actually look like? Because I've heard it preached from the pulpit.
Yep.
We just heard you talk about it for 10 minutes.
Yep.
The next 10 minutes, let's be like, how are we going to, what does this actually look like for me when I'm having a crappy day? What does it look like for the mom struggling with her kids? What does it look like for the person that hates their job? Like, what does that practically look like?
Yeah. And I think there's some basic principles that we'll, kind of dive into now, but, life is nuanced, right? And so these have to be applied and kind of shifted and, again, change a little bit depending on the circumstance. But again, some of these foundational things, first and foremost, and this is always like the first thing that we should probably say, right? Like, we got to pray. Like, we got to go to Jesus, because there are so many times when like life stinks. And again, when life stinks, I often think that God stinks. And so I don't pray. Like, I turn into one of my little kids who is throwing some kind of tantrum.
Right.
And I'm like, well, if you're going to do this to me, then I'm not going to pray, and I'm going to show you. Because
I can't relate with that.
I know,
at
right?
all.
Right. And of course, maybe that's not like the total straight kind of stream of consciousness that I'm thinking through in that moment. But when you boil it down, it's something like that,
totally
right?
got you.
Right. Life just stinks. So it's easier to watch Netflix than to pray. And it's a theological virtue. It's a moment where we connect with God and that we remember those promises. So if we're not taking that time to connect with God, the idea of having hope in God is going to be extremely foreign. And so we got to take time to pray. And again, that sounds sweet. And again, in like youth ministry or church circles, like that's always the answer. I always tell kids, like, if you like zone out during small groups and someone asks you a question, like, just say pray and you're probably going to be right. Like, I mean, that's always like the answer. Like, you're fine. But we never really talk about how challenging that can be, specifically when life is challenging.
Yeah.
But if we want to be people of hope, we need to be people of prayer. So I think that's the first thing we need to do. And that's not just saying like, when crap hits the fan, hit your knees. It means that every single day, when things are good or when things are bad, we're having that relationship with God and that we're connecting with him, so that when things do get rough, we're not just going to him like he's some kind of cosmic vending machine who's going to give us what we want when we just put in those right combinations.
As long as you get the right amount of money.
That's right. That's true. That's true. Remember to tithe, folks. But that we're in this habit of just knowing that like God is the same today, tomorrow, and forever. And so whether my circumstances change, God does not. And I'm already in a relationship with him, and he's not getting out of this boat no matter how crazy the storm gets around me. And so we really need to develop a way of prayer to develop hope.
Yeah, it makes sense, because like the natural thing is like, the reason I don't have hope is because I don't see a change, or I don't see like a human way out of this.
Yeah.
So it's like, it seems so weird that I stop praying in those scenarios,
right?
Because like I'm admitting defeat. We're like, there's no way out of this, when the only ticket out of it is God. Right? Not that he is just the ticket to get out of stuff, but he is like, he's the only person that could help me in this situation. And I'm like, but I don't want to.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, absolutely. And so I think it's just so important, and it's one of those messages that sounds trite. Just pray about it. But at its heart and at its core, like, the importance of prayer and taking that time to be with God really is foundational for living a life of hope. I think the other thing that we can do, and again, this is just kind of like a 1A, is stay close to the church, but specifically the sacraments. And I know we're coming out of a season where that wasn't always available, but now as things begin to open back up, I mean, the Eucharist is Jesus himself, right? The source of our hope, the source and summit of our faith. And so to be able to receive that grace in such a tangible way, whether it's the Eucharist or even reconciliation, because let's be honest, sometimes our lack of hope is not because like life sucks, it's because like we've been sucking, right? And so to be able to go and just hear the priest act in persona Christi and speak that hope of forgiveness back into our lives is an incredibly powerful and real grace, right? And so to stay close to the sacraments, right? So those are kind of the two things that I think are like super spiritual, right? Yeah. And foundational. But then even just more practically, like, we need to have some people around us who understand our struggle of hope, or at least our struggle with life, who then can speak hope back into our life, right? To just have those guys who are like, hey, I know things have been like really tough at home. Like, I just want you to know I'm praying for you. Or like, how are you doing? Like, can we go grab a beer? Can we get some time, just away and just talk, and I just want to make sure you're doing all right. Like, when I have some friends who do that for me, I can go from feeling like a zero to a hero in just 5 minutes, right? Like, I can just be so filled and so overwhelmed with just the fact that somebody cares and sees me in this moment of loneliness or hurt or whatever it might be. But just the fact that they gave that time makes me feel like I have enough hope to take on the next day.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So I think that's a huge piece too, because again, we're coming out of a season where we were all pretty much isolated. They called it distancing, but realistically, the fruit of it was that we were isolated. And maybe if you were proactive, you FaceTimed or called somebody. I didn't,
Yeah.
right? I just kind of sat there, and I had my family, which was a saving grace, but it was still a really lonely season, right? So to be able to kind of get back and sit with people and talk with people and again, share truth and life to one another, I think is a great way of fostering hope.
Yeah. I will give one more practical.
Yeah.
Go buy your book. Not you. That's everybody else.
Yeah.
Tell us how we can do that.
Yeah. So Amazon or Pauline Books and Media. It's just out there. Again, search the interwebs. It's there. You can go to some Catholic bookstores. You can find it there as well. It's called Hope Always.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was like, just waiting for the.
Yeah, that might be helpful.
And then how do people find you? Because you seem cool.
Yeah. So you can find me through my website, but I'm just going to be pretty transparent. I don't jump on it as much as I probably should. So it's ChristopherFrank.com. But if you want to find me maybe a little quicker, you can go through Vegabond Missions. So vagabondmissions.com, my contact's there. Reach out. I would love to talk to you, hang out, and get to know you a little bit.
And I will do a follow-up conversation with Liv next time she's on about how Zach is doing, her
Yeah,
son,
yeah.
hanging out with you guys.
Yeah.
So, Chris, thanks for being here.
Thanks for
I
having
have
me.
to literally drive you to the
I
home
got-
base now to get on a plane.
I got a flight to catch, but
All
it's
right.
been fun.
Chris is leaving. I'll be
All
right
right.
back.
Yep.
Don't go
God bless.
anywhere. If you're a married person that sometimes feels lonely, welcome to the club. Go find your spouse and say hello to them. Maybe more, but I don't think I should say anymore. If you're a single person that often feels lonely, don't do the things that married people do. Find a date at catholicmatch.com/forte. Yes, that's what we're going with today. I'm running out of ideas. This is our 20th ad for Catholic Match. And if you haven't signed up yet and you're a single Catholic, then you just wasted 20 of your minutes. You're wasting my time. You're wasting your time. Go sign up today at catholicmatch.com/forte so that you don't have to feel lonely until you get married. And then pray and find friends and love your spouse. But until then, catholicmatch.com/forte. Welcome back to Forte Catholic, and welcome back, Jonathan Blevins. Back to the show after a few months, and back after we were like, hey, welcome back. Also, don't be here for this interview.
Yeah, kicked me out on episode 1.
Right. We got to ease you back in a little bit. We can't get you tired of me after just one recording. So, as you guys know, I edit podcasts for a living. That's essentially what my life has become. And I was editing one recently where Dr. Bob Rice came on. It's still so weird that he's a doctor because Bob, if you know Bob Rice, he's been a leader in the Catholic youth ministry world for years. I had him as a professor in grad school, and he got his doctorate, and like he's like so fun and down to earth. Like he's like the least doctor person I've ever met.
Except for how he dresses.
Yeah, the bow tie. The bow tie,
The bow tie
for
and the
sure.
baggy jeans.
Yeah. But he's great. He's one of my favorite people alive. And they were talking about youth and young adult ministry and all these things. But he said this one thing that really stuck out to me in this conversation. And he said that only 8% of Catholics in the world reside in North America. That blew my mind. We think we are so important. We think that, all of our discourse on the internet and our podcasts and our ministries and our American way of life, we think we're so important. And the Vatican's like, you're 8% of what we have to care about.
Which is almost 10%.
Sure. Yeah. But I think in my mind, like American, because we're like, we're the best and we're so important and we're just like,
Yeah, we do that. I think it's good perspective. I saw your tweet when you tweeted that and was like, oh, yeah, that is good perspective.
There was a thread and you just liked the top one.
Yeah, I didn't read any of those. No, I remember looking at it, though, and being like I've kind of known, I didn't know the number was 8%, but I always have, in the last few years, have tried to say, like, let's put this into perspective, right? Like, even with this latest letter that Pope Francis wrote, which we're maybe probably not getting into, like, it's not like he knows everything that's happening in America. He doesn't know who Taylor Marshall is. So he's not making any of these decisions based on like the things we know on Catholic Twitter. He's listening to his bishops and all that kind of stuff. And right or wrong, what his bishops are telling him. But yeah, we're just 8%, man. We can do our thing. We have the USCCB here. Like that's where if we want to make any kind of changes or reform or protest, like focus it at the USCCB and not at Papa Frank.
Pope Francis, not Kris Frank, who was just on the show.
Yeah, good clarification. Pope Francis.
Direct all your complaints to Kris Frank about the Catholic Church in America. But what was interesting, John, is like, you have what the kids like to say, clout on the internet. Like you've got a bunch of followers and you say stuff and people like it, they share it and they engage with it. I don't. I tweet things and no one cares. But this one, I got some pushback and I found it fascinating. One person, and like I don't hate these guys that push back, but I found it interesting that I got pushback on this. Like one guy was saying, actually, it's closer to 20%, and he shared like a Wikipedia link, and I'm like, well, first of all, like Bob Rice studies this stuff. It's what he studied these demographics because he's helping to like rewrite the youth, young adult, and campus ministry document with the USCCB. Like he's a huge influence on these things, and he's been studying these things. So I'm like, first of all, we do this a lot where we're like, I'm going to use this Wikipedia thing. So first point, I trust Dr. Bob Rice, who studies this stuff, way more than I trust a Wikipedia link that you can just look up. But even if, let's just say, okay, doctors can be wrong, Bob could be wrong. Let's just say he was wrong. The thing was like, actually, it's 8% in the U.S., not 8% in North America. I'm like, first of all, I don't trust your source. But even if I did, that's still the point.
Right.
When I think about like my life experience, I'm not thinking about Mexico. My experience is in the U.S., right? And that's the experience of most of our listeners. Hey, Canada, I know that you have a percentage as well. We'll say 8%, maybe 20 on Wikipedia. But I just found it fascinating that like, and then the other pushback was wild. Like these are people I don't know that don't follow me. I don't know how this, I guess free tweets or whatever. And the other one was like, well, we give 22% of the money to the Vatican. Like the money that the Vatican gets from all the dioceses in the world. And I'm like, and like they even said like, we are important. And I'm like, no, you're missing it. You're missing the point. Like, this is the problem, is that we think that we're the most important because we're the biggest. We're not. Because we give the most money. Maybe we do, but that's not the point.
Right.
What do you got to say?
I mean, me? What do I have to say?
Yes, you.
We're
going to bring Kris Frank back.
I think the point you're trying to make is very well taken. And I think it actually points to a bigger... So, because obviously you make that point with a bunch of crazy things in the last few weeks happening in the Catholic Twitter world, particularly in America, with some crossover with Rome, happening and whatever. And so there's been a lot of contention and a lot of fighting on Catholic Twitter lately. And so I'm assuming that's where why you tweeted what you tweeted.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So you're trying to make a point.
Our arguments are now, I'm not saying we're not important. Everybody is important and has value, but I'm saying that we have overemphasized our importance of our American experience of the church, and even more so, the smaller percentage of American Catholics who are engaged in social media.
Yeah. Apology to anyone who listens to the show whose name is Karen, but we've basically just kind of become such a Karen as American Catholics, right? We're like, I want to talk to the manager. I want to talk to you and complain to you about this. This is crazy. How could you make this decision? And I think that what you're pointing to, this 8% tweet, it actually points to a larger issue that I think we have as a church, which is that it's really, 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 really hard to govern a church with this many people in it, with so few bishops and cardinals and priests, right? So like I'm in the Diocese of Chicago. Cardinal Supich, everyone wonders if him and Pope Francis are buddies and they text all the time. I promise you they don't text all the time. They might have meetings.
They meet once every 4 years.
Yeah,
I don't know about yours in particular, but like literally there are planned meetings with bishops from around the world where the Pope meets with them every 4 to 5 years for about 30 minutes. Like, that's it.
Here's the thing, right? I know that Cardinal Supich does not meet with his priests all the time, and I know that it's not super often that he gets to even meet with his bishops all the time. And if that's the case, here in Chicago, how much crazier is it with Pope Francis and all the cardinals and bishops in America alone? And so if anything, it's a great way of showing that we might need some type of reform in some way in order to make sure that our bishops and our priests are on the same page and able to work closer together when they're so far away from each other geographically, so spread out, and bishops aren't able to know what mass looks like at this parish versus this parish. And so all that kind of stuff, I think, is one of the bigger issues in the church, not so much like what Pope Francis is or is not saying about America.
Yeah, I think it just for me, it's a very, you joked earlier about not being good with numbers. Like, numbers do a lot for me, right? Maybe I'm not good with them, but like stats like this do a lot for me, where it's like people could tell me, oh, you need to be more humble in your personal life, or more humble on the internet, or more humble on the podcast. Like, anybody can be told that. But for me to see that stat, like, it's humbling in and of itself. It's not somebody telling me to be. It automatically like makes me more humble, where I'm like, man, like, we are important to the people. Like, I'm important to my family. I'm important enough to the people that listen for people to continue listening, right? We have our influence where we have it, but it's just a reminder. You talked about, certain people on the internet that do kind of close their blinders and think that they're all right about everything. And it's like, well, we need to be a little bit more humble and open to maybe our experience isn't the experience of every Catholic in the world.
Yeah. And I think it's good for us to remember that, like, we need to take a step back and pray. We are one of however many billions of people in this world, yet God loves us so intimately, more than Pope Francis ever could, and more than the entire Catholic Church could, if they listen to our tweets and stuff. And we're so worried about tweeting the correct things all the time and trying to make change on Twitter when we've got the God of the universe who wants us to spend time with him. We should do that more.
Very good. Very good. You are important. You are loved by God, by your family, by those around you. You're just not as important as you think you are on the internet. That goes for you. That goes for me. That goes for everyone listening. I just thought it was a kind of a perspective shifter for me, and kind of helped explain a lot of the like frustrations I've had with like how people have been acting and responding to all sorts of things. So anyway, that's what we're going to end the show with today. Jon, I'm glad that you are back. It's good to have you.
It's good to be back, man. The Olympics are on. Gosh, what a good time.
They are. So that's all for our show today. If you want to go back and relive some of Jon and I's friendship, we did our Forte flashback with Jon just a couple of days ago. You can check that out wherever you listen to podcasts or on YouTube. That was Jon's first time as a guest on the show before he was a co-host. So make sure that you guys check that out. Jon will be back in a month. I'll be back next week. See ya!
See ya!
Thank you guys so much for sticking with us to the end of the episode today. We hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you are listening in Apple Podcasts specifically, leave us a review. A little 5 stars. Say, hey, this show is good. Like, that's literally all we need is just some words and 5 stars. Connect with us throughout the week at Taylor Schroll on Instagram and Twitter. And at Forte Catholic on Twitter as well. Also, Forte Catholic has a Facebook page and LinkedIn if you're over the age of 40 and want to follow us. We've got some stuff going on there too. Just search Forte Catholic. All right, well, that's all for me today. Goodbye. I hope that you have a good week. Okay, see ya. Bye. Adios.